Hey everyone, welcome back to HLS TV. I'm Moran here with Ryan Ritter. I wish this was alcohol.
I got some. I actually had to start watching through the game, so I definitely needed a little bit before we get started, to say the least.
Fair enough. So yesterday, painful to watch, but it did happen. It was not a dream, maybe a nightmare, but where should we start?
Certainly a nightmare. Well, yeah, it's absolute nightmare. No one saw this coming. I mean, this was by far the worst team on our schedule, and even when I was writing my post late last night, I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm typing Notre Dame lost to Northwestern. How is this happening? I mean, I don't even know where to start. That everybody screwed up. I mean, down for offense, defense, special teams, even the coaching staff. I mean, everybody gets a bit of the blame in this one. And for me, it's the worst loss that I've witnessed as a Notre Dame fan. Not so much because I think it's the worst game I've ever seen Notre Dame play. They're certainly worse. But as far as talent for Notre Dame, as opposed to the talent that we were facing on the field, that just didn't match up to me. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point because we know that Notre Dame was more than capable of beating them. So, and I mean, Northwestern made a lot of mistakes. So I mean, that was the other thing. It's like we lost when they were dropping passes left and right, and I don't know how we managed that one, but we did.
You broke up a little on your first part there. So what was the first part of your thought?
Um, Goodness, I'm sure it wasn't a good thing. I just said that, yeah, I think it was really hard to watch because Notre Dame was more than capable of beating them.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if people listen to the audio will wonder why there's just this silence and a big sigh. We've
I was
been
crying.
disconnecting so many different times trying to get this together. So
Yeah,
it's just like the Northwestern game. There's a pick, a turnover, a hopeless thing that happens over and over again.
I know. Yep.
So
Yeah.
where do you want to start with this disaster? What should we try to pick apart first?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. I guess let's start with Everett Golson in the offense, I guess.
Well, Everett Golson's going to get quite a bit of blame, and deservedly so. Hilariously enough, though, he wasn't the biggest problem in this game. He didn't have a great game, but as far as the turnovers, his two turnovers that he had, one, at first I was like, oh, he got hit. That wasn't that big of a deal. And then as soon as they showed the replay, they show him getting hit, and then Golson just, oh, I can do something, and chucking the ball sidearm when you just need to take a sack there. Just take a sack. And a lot of people have wondered, is like Golson's got a confidence problem. I think it's the opposite. I think he's just determined to make something happen, even
Hmm.
when it's dumb of him to do so. And this game, I'm going to give him some credit because he did start throwing the ball away, which I can't even remember seeing him do all season long.
Yeah, no, I agree because there was definitely time where they threw the ball away. I think then the next down, it was like third and 24 after that, and then I think they converted. So I was like, see, that was good, good decision making.
Right, yeah, and I mean
Just
sometimes.
wasn't consistent throughout the whole game though.
Yeah, and he just needs to learn. And it was almost hilarious because College Game Day showed this little bit with Pollock getting coached by George Whitfield. And it was this drill which you would never see in a football game because this offensive lineman and defensive lineman going back and forth in this makeshift pocket, which would never happen. And then at the end of it, Pollock chucks the ball and it hits an offensive lineman in the head. And I even tweeted, it's like, we can get all the Everett Golson jokes now because of Whitfield coach QB just threw and hit a lineman. And lo and behold, where does that ball go that Everett chucks in the middle of nowhere? It goes right off an offensive lineman's head and right into the arms of a defender. It was just like, I can't believe it. This is actually real life. This is happening.
That happens.
Yeah.
Evidently.
And the second one, I'm not even sure where the blame goes for this. It's only because we haven't seen a whole lot of read option from Golson, and I think that had something to do with it because it was a really, really late pull. So I don't
Hmm.
know if it was a fact of Golson and his pull didn't hold on to the ball tight enough and it hit Folston too hard.
Hmm.
Folston was trying to grab the ball too hard because, I mean, they haven't been used to Golson pulling the ball down all season long. So, you know, things like that may happen. And even Brian Kelly in the post-game press conference said, you know what, maybe I was a little too confident, paraphrasing, these are not his exact words, about calling so much read option. We thought he had a better handle on it. And I'm going to have to go back and look at whether that was a good decision or not because that cost the Irish points.
it's an interesting point that Brian Kelly was kind of maybe second guessing some of his decisions regarding the read option. I'm sure the coaching staff is perhaps second guessing many decisions. We can get back to the offense, but there were some interesting coaching decisions as well throughout that game that had an effect.
Oh, without a doubt. And it started before the game. Redfield got benched.
Yeah.
And Drew Tranquil had he had a game that you would expect out of a true freshman. He had a rough game. And I know Redfield has had his issues, and today Brian Kelly said in his conference call that, and I'm reading between the lines on this because he said that he wanted Redfield to be on the sidelines to get a better view of the game. And I interpret that as Brian Kelly saying, I don't think I needed Redfield to beat Northwestern, so this was a good time to get Drew Tranquil some playing time and to let Max learn what was going on.
Off at it first.
Yeah, and then it totally backfired. And when I went back and rewatched, I forgot it was Drew Tranquil that had that pass interference call on the 2-point conversion that allowed Northwestern to get another chance. And I know the call may be a little bit questionable, but the reason it happened was because Tranquil was a step or two behind, and he was just hauling as fast as he could towards his guy, and he never got a chance to turn around, look for the ball, and that's an automatic flag every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for experience. Even if Max Redfield has a lot of things to learn, I think he probably would have been a better choice, regardless of if it's Northwestern or not. And we see how that turned out. So.
Oh, yeah. And it did not turn out well, and then you had the curious decision to go for 2 points while up by 11, which made no sense at all. And it was the one thing Brian Kelly got questioned about repeatedly in the press conference, not just after the game, but today as well. And his main thing there was that he said he has a chart. It was more or less a coin flip opportunity there. Now, I don't know if it's a 50-50 chance. I think he's kind of fudging that number a little bit. But what he also said was that he did not have a whole lot of trust in his field goal kicking unit because they just botched one beforehand. So Kelly's in this spot to where he feels, and it's crazy to think this, that he felt a 2-point conversion was a better idea than kicking an extra point. And today he more or less fessed up, said, hey, my fault, that's on me. But the fact that it was even a debate in his mind really says a lot about how he felt about Zaire holding a ball for Brenza on a simple extra point. So, yeah, those are very interesting comments from Brian Kelly regarding those plays. How did you feel about the whole go for 2 thing? Were you also wondering what was going on, or were you at your play at this point? I mean, I know you got a very rude alert in the middle of the game.
Yes, I actually didn't see too much of the game. I am currently in a play, so I found out about the loss via text alert, and then after that, I of course had to see what happened. So I went back through Twitter and kind of figured it out. So yeah, so going for 2 thing, I didn't agree with that call, especially when we were up by 11. I understand that he didn't have the most confidence in the kicking game at that point in time, but I didn't agree with that.
Yeah, and you can even go back further. If you didn't have confidence in it, then why try to swap Zaire in for Hunter Smith? I mean, did you have I don't see how that all of a sudden gave him less confidence or more confidence or something like that. But, I mean,
yeah,
it was all so weird. And this is why I always say, throwing in a backup is never going to be a quick fix.
Right.
I know quarterback and holding aren't equivalent, but it's the same theory. Just because you swap another part in doesn't mean you fix a problem. It's not an engine. You're still dealing with human beings that can make mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we saw a lot of that yesterday.
Oh yeah, we haven't even gotten into we mentioned that, but I mean we had other people on the offense that screwed up. Chris Brown fumbling right on the goal line, basically. Another place where we lost points, and Cam McDaniel of all people fumbles at the tail end of the game. And I know people are, well, why don't you kneel it? Well, you couldn't have knelt, and this kind of drives me nuts because there's so many things you can actually be legitimately mad with the coaching staff. This, I don't think, is one of them, because if you kneel the ball out, you're still punting it. So, okay, we punt it and say they still manage to tie it up or, God forbid, break loose and score a touchdown. And we would crucify Brian Kelly for terrible clock management. Why don't you just run the ball and try to run some timeout? So
Mhm.
I completely, and I've never seen a coach kneel the ball and then later punt it. So I understand why Kelly did that, and I don't have a problem with him subbing Cam McDaniel in. If you would have said who's the one person that will not fumble the football, I would say Cam
I would
McDaniel.
say him.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
just that kind of night. Everything went wrong, including
Yeah.
Cam
I
coughing
was
the
gonna
football.
say. Yeah, last night was the first thing for everything bad to happen for many different pieces of the team.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I feel terrible for Cam, but and I'm sure Folson's angry, thinking he's like, and he had a pretty good game. I'm gonna give him, he deserves some credit. He had a solid game, and I know he coughed up some fumbles earlier in the season, but he's been solid with ball security since. And yeah, there's just so many little things, but and we haven't even talked about defense yet, and that was.
I don't really know what to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked some of it. We talked a little bit about Drew Tranquil, but he was the least of
Yeah.
the Irish problems. And as much as people get upset about Navy and defensive line injuries, we had two big ones. Here Sheldon Day and Daniel Cage go
Mhm.
down, and I haven't seen an update on them yet. And this is a Irish defense that cannot afford to lose any more people. We are already way too young, and it's clear that when Northwestern was shifting around, I don't think Notre Dame could adjust back in there. There was so many miscommunications on the field. It
No,
was
I don't think
ridiculous.
those guys had any idea where the ball was. They look so confused.
Oh, and even Austin Collinsworth on one touchdown, he was the one that came in late on it, and this was like in the second quarter or something around there. But the angle that he was running from was a place that he never should have been running from, because either he was covering from somebody else that blew the coverage, or he blew it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I honestly can't say who blew it, but
Right.
he's basically running. The guy's running into the far corner of the end zone, and he's running basically from the goal line, trying to catch up to him. He was never in step with him, so I don't know if somebody lost track of him or what. But I mean, Collinsworth returned a fumble for a touchdown, but he still didn't have that great of a game. The tackling was
Yeah.
poor. The pass rush was non-existent. Blitzes were not even causing pressure. It was just it was colossally bad, and people are out now saying, "Oh, this is clear cause to fire Brian Van Gorder," which I think is a step too far.
Yeah, I agree.
But I understand the frustration. But a lot of it
Yeah,
is this.
definitely.
This was the fear that we had once we learned, that we lost the five players, and we lost, Eshak and Kavari Russell, two people we expected to start. And
Mhm.
now Joe Schmidt injury is just seeming so large. Kelly even admitted the communication hasn't been where it needs to be, to where my next question is like, well, who the heck's stepping up and trying to fill in?
It doesn't seem like anyone right now.
Yeah, it's like, are we even close to figuring it out, or are we just kind of all pointing fingers trying to figure it out? And some of that goes back to coaching too, and I assume that's why Austin Collinsworth was put back into the game, um,
Hmm.
to be that quarterback, because he's done that before. But I just can't even. I have never seen Notre Dame look so lost on defense in a long, long time, and they're way too talented to look like that, especially against freaking Northwestern.
I know. Uh, painful. Painful.
Yeah, I mean, what did you see in the defense for the parts? Because I know you missed the very, very terrible part of the game, but you definitely
I
saw the
did. I know. And
opening.
then I was like, well, I don't know. I was talking to probably my mom and my dad, and I was like, well, I don't know. Should I watch? And like, just don't bother. And I was like, okay. I was like, I won't watch it then. But yeah, the parts I did see, I didn't see much that I was impressed with. That's for sure. They just look so lost, like you said. And then when something good did happen, it was immediately negated. So like Austin Collinsworth had that scoop and score, and I was like, all right, yes, momentum shift. This is good. And then the craziness happened after that. I was like, seriously? How does that happen?
Yeah, same
So
thing
like
with.
even anything good was overshadowed immediately by something completely ridiculous.
Right, and even Farley. I mean, he got an interception, which was
Hmm.
good, and Cole Luke got an interception, but you know, but still, there was so many. It's just, and I really don't want to have to rewatch the entire game, because I was sick to my stomach
I
rewatching
know.
the end of it that I missed. But I mean, there were just, I lost count of blown coverages in the first freaking half, because everybody just seemed all over the place, and from what I saw, it didn't look like we were going too crazy with it. And again, this is without me having to rewatch it, so I maybe put my foot in my mouth here. Somebody may prove me wrong later, but it seemed like a lot of the coverages were simple zone coverages that were blown, people not manning up correctly, or just plain getting beat because they were making the wrong moves and not reading the receivers right. And like we said about earlier, Drew Tranquil, that was man coverage, and he got beat. He got flat out beat. So there's just, and this is, like I said, it's Northwestern, and it's not getting any easier because Louisville, even though their starting QB is out, their QB that's behind them is not, awful by any means, and they have very skilled receivers, and USC has got all kinds of speed. So this is very nerve-wracking. I've never felt this scared going into another game. And
well, yeah. No, I was going to say, I know that we always talk about expectations for this season, where we can end up, where we are in the standings, all that stuff. I mean, after this game, I was like, I just don't want to go 7-5. Like, that's where I am right now. I'm like, can we just win these last two? That's all I want. Like,
yeah, if we play like this, it's going to happen. We cannot win football games like this. If last week was the dose of reality that this team is not a playoff contender, this week was the clear message that
the exclamation point on that.
Well, it's the exclamation point, but also that you can't keep screwing around with ball security and expect to keep getting away with it. I mean, eventually it's going to bite you in the ass, and it 100% bit us in the ass. And again, it was more than just Golson. Like I said, when you have Cam McDaniel fumbling the football too, you just almost wonder, is something filtering down to everybody? Is everybody just got a shot of confidence that just has killed them, or I can't even explain it. And even on that fumble, Cam had both his arms wrapped up, and literally the Northwestern player was just grabbing both arms and just hoping and praying the ball would pop out, and it did. So it wasn't like Cam wasn't trying to protect the ball. It's just that he failed to do it. He lost a battle, and that's what it comes down to. And it's just ridiculous that things like that kept happening. And Golson's already under fire as it is, and I think the most telling thing, because I'm still not totally convinced, putting Zaire in is going to fix all of our problems. But it was really telling in the post game, because every time Brian Kelly's been asked about it, it's been immediate. It's like, no, he's our quarterback, or an immediate answer, no, ever gives us the best chance to win.
Right.
He was asked a question after this game, and he just sat there and paused. It's like, and it went into one of the weakest votes of confidence I've ever seen Brian Kelly give one of his guys. So I think in the back of his mind, the leash is getting shortened. It has to be. I don't see a way around it. He has such ability to do such great things, and I've compared him to Brett Favre before, because it's like he gunslings, he tries to push too hard, but I mean, he's got to clean it up. The whole team needs to clean it up, and it's up and down across the board. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, 7-5. If that happens, holy crap! I mean, I don't even know what the reactions are going to be at that point.
I don't either, but I hate that it's seeming likely at this point. I hate that. I mean, like, our last show we were like, Northwestern, we're not going to bother to preview that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, look what happened.
Well, and go me. My dumb ass is sitting here on a radio show, second week into it. I do the same thing and start making fun of them about how pathetic their offense is, and here they go setting season-high numbers.
Right. Why not? Why not?
And I swear, I may just not even say anything about maybe I'll just give the most complimentary preview I can to Louisville possible once I dig into them, just so I can say, yeah, Louisville's going to just blow the doors off Notre Dame, just so I can be wrong for the third week in a row. But but as soon as I do that, it'll happen. So I don't even know if I want to go to.
I don't think there's anything right. I don't think you can. Yeah, just don't say anything. You're probably going to be wrong right away.
And I got a couple people jokingly saying that I need to sacrifice the radio show being 0-2. I'm sorry, folks. I signed a contract for a half a year minimum, so I can't get out of it. We're screwed from this point forward, okay? So
well, at least we don't need to blame now.
Yeah, we can. You can always blame Tex. That is completely
your fault.
Yeah. So yeah, and where to go from here? I mean, I know we talked about trying to get into one of the New Year's Six bowls, that's gone too. I mean, so much is going to have to happen for us to crawl back in there. I mean, we could probably blow the doors off Louisville and Southern Cal. I don't think it's going to happen. But beyond
Yeah.
that, I have to, and I did not expect to have to dig this far down into the infographic that we talked about yesterday, but we're going to have to do it. So the next option for Notre Dame, if okay, so we mentioned before that Notre Dame could make an Orange Bowl if they were the highest ranked non-semifinal team out of the SEC or Big Ten. The ACC does get an Orange Bowl bid this year. So assuming Florida State makes it, then the next best ranked ACC team will likely get selected in there. Now, the SEC or Big Ten team, they'll be in. So if one of those is a Big Ten team, the Citrus Bowl, which is a New Year's Bowl, but from what I've read, it's not a part of the New Year's Six. So it's like the seventh New Year's Bowl because I think it's because the bowl can pick it and not the committee, and I think that's the difference.
Okay.
The Citrus Bowl has an option to pick either ACC or Notre Dame should a Big Ten team be taken in the Orange Bowl. And that could be a possibility depending on how Ohio State pans out. They're on the verge, so if they miss the playoff, that they will certainly go to the Orange Bowl. They will be the highest ranked team, I believe, that would be left out. So if that happens, we very well, the way the ACC is panning out, and that whole division's a mess too, or conference rather, is a mess right now. So Notre Dame very well could sneak into the Citrus Bowl. And that would be nice because it's also against an SEC opponent, which I said before I would prefer.
Yeah.
Now I'm scared to death of it because I'm sure we win that at this rate. The next bowl down is the funniest bowl Twitter account ever. It's the Russell Athletic Bowl, and they get the next pick regardless of what happens in the Citrus Bowl. They get the next pick of ACC or Notre Dame, and that is against a Big 12 opponent, which right now looks like it could be a toss-up between TCU and Baylor, depending on how the final rankings play out. And that's another very scary matchup with this defense.
Right. I was going to say it'd be great to make it to some of these, but I don't know if we make it out alive.
Yeah, I know. And those are two of the most terrifying offenses in college football.
I'm just you're not wide-eyed and terrified.
Right. I mean, even if we somehow snuck into the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, Auburn could very well be waiting on the other side of that fence. And thankfully, they don't have much of a defense. But I tell you what, we will not be able to stop their offense at this rate. But anyway, so those are the next two kind of upper tier bowls that we can get to. Now, the next tier below it is actually what the ACC considers their tier one. And that is the Belk Bowl, the Sun Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl. I can't read it here. There's some other bowl here, and then the TaxSlayer.com, which used to be the Gator Bowl. The bowl I can't read, it's in Tennessee, so it's probably the Music City Bowl, but I can't read it. So that's the tier one, which all of those still very much in reach. Belk Bowl is against an SEC team. The Sun Bowl is against Pac-12. Pinstripe Bowl, which I hope to God we avoid, is Big Ten. The Music City Bowl, SEC. TaxSlayer.com Bowl, SEC. So there's a good chance we could still find an SEC opponent there. Now, beyond that, that's where things get messy because now you're in the Tier 2 bowls, which are bad. You have the Military Bowl against the American Conference, Independence Bowl against the SEC, and then you have what is called the Quick Lane Bowl against the Big Ten, and then we have two bowls we're not even going to get into because if we end up going that low, things really, really went to hell. Okay, so yeah, I mean, those are the options we have in front of us. How do you feel about that? Do you feel any worse, better? Let me know what you think.
It's hard to say if I feel better about anything after yesterday, but I mean,
fair point.
But, no, I mean, there does seem to at least be some decent options where we could have them. Good competition. It's just the good competition part's what scares me. But I agree with you that at least I think if we could get in a bowl, at least against an SEC team or some solid competition, I think that would at least make the season salvageable and worth it toward the end.
I agree. And honestly, the way I look at it right now, we could very well end up in the Russell Athletic Bowl just kind of based on how things are turning out because I think they would grab if it's the way I think it is, if it's the Bowls option, they say ACC team or Notre Dame, they're going to take Notre Dame.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think as long as it's even close to comparable. I mean, obviously, I need to double check and make sure they're not required to take an upper ranked ACC team. If they are, they may not have a choice. But
Right. But I agree. If not, I think any
yeah,
bowl would want Notre Dame over.
and yeah, and really, normally I wouldn't be too excited about a Big 12 matchup, but well, I'd be terrified because, like we said, TCU or Baylor, that's a big game.
Yeah.
Even if we slid further, I think if we land in the Tier 1, we're in good shape. I honestly don't know how bowl priority maps out, but 3 of those bowls are, 2 of them are on December 30th, and 1 is on January 2nd. So you are around that New Year's area, which is where we really, really want to end up. And I know we don't want to go back to the Sun Bowl in El Paso. We don't want to go back to the Pinstripe Bowl because we don't want to play another Big Ten team. That's for sure. And the other options, and again, we get to play an SEC team, which is one conference we haven't faced yet, and that's kind of what I want to do. So if we end up in Russell Athletic or in some of the other SEC tie-ins, I'd be happy with that, only because I think that's a lemonade out of lemon situation, because this sucks.
I agree.
Because
yeah, we definitely weren't talking like this a couple weeks ago, but you just have to adjust expectations, and I'm totally cool with that at this point in time.
Right. Well, I mean, but the thing that sucks the most is it's the way it happened. It's because it happened against Northwestern. I think if this happens against Louisville or USC, we're feeling not better, but not as dumb.
Not as crappy.
Not as really, holy crap, Northwestern beat us. Are you joking me? And really, that's just the thing that I keep coming back to in my head, is that Notre Dame is so much better of a team than what they showed, and it was just what it reminds me of. And I don't know how you felt at this point in time, but the 1-2 punch of losing Tulsa and Navy back to back. This team is a lot better than that iteration of the Irish. But that's about where I feel I'm at right now. It's that same area of, we lost 2 games, and how in the hell did you lose it? And with Tulsa, why didn't you just kick the field goal? Why didn't you do a 2-point conversion? If there's 2 points in time to where, and I hope it never happens because I really like Brian Kelly. I think he's great for the program. But if we ever start building a fireable offenses list, Tulsa is on that list, and Northwestern's going to be on that list, because there's some definite questionable decisions made in those games alone to, build an argument up. Like I said, I don't believe we're there yet, because Kelly, more often than not, even after that disaster back in 2010, the Irish came back, they beat Utah, upset Utah. Nobody was expecting it to happen. So, and that was just such a huge bounce back, and Notre Dame ran the table the rest of the way. They went on and beat USC for the first time in years in their house, which we're going to need to do again, and we managed to absolutely just make a laugher out of that year's Sun Bowl against Miami. And
that was great.
that was when we thought Tommy Rees, was going to be that special guy that just finds a way to win, and then 2011 happened, and
I know. I was very impressed by anybody that could put together a highlight of Miami, because they didn't have much to brag about, but there were YouTube videos of Miami highlights, so someone was able to scrape something up. But
yeah, I do not envy Superman TD Jesus if he manages.
I know.
I
felt bad for us even to have to make this and try to come up with something to talk about.
Yeah. And maybe thankfully for him, I know he's had a lot of technical issues, which is the reason we haven't had highlight videos the past couple of weeks. So I'm sure he's kind of would not be too disappointed if it happened again, because I know making a highlight reel on plays like this is a mess. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. Do we want to do MVPs? I guess that's the next step, because we haven't done that yet, and
sure.
Every week.
Yes. Hi, we have a.
I'm still breathing. I'm still living.
He's still breathing and he's still living. If anybody was concerned, we can't see your head.
It just goes to show you how important Joe Schmidt is on defense.
Yes, indeed. I definitely agree.
They are totally discombobulated without him. They don't know. Jalen Smith and those guys got talent, but they're all over the field like chickens with their heads cut off. I'll give Northwestern credit. Anybody can come in there losing 4 straight games and play a game the way they did and actually should have had a few more touchdowns. But I just want to know one thing. If somebody can explain to me at the Mendoza School of Business why you would go for 2 points when all you needed was 1 point.
Kelly admitted he screwed up there. He thought.
I know, but I mean, if this didn't make any sense. I mean, I don't know who's figuring this stuff out, but I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was.
Fair enough.
He knows he can't defend it.
And you could tell. Could you tell at the beginning of the game that Brenza looked like his leg was hurt?
No,
off the field. He had a 17-yard punt, a 26-yard punt. He missed a couple field goals. And at the end of the first half, with just X amount of seconds left to go, Notre Dame tries a field goal with about fourth and a yard. So you may as well try some kind of a fake play and go for a touchdown or do something like that. We're becoming too pro. Field goals just don't do it. You know what I mean? Once in a while, you got to go for it. So, I mean,
on that note,
Northwestern deserved to win the game. I mean, I'm a big Notre Dame fan, but sometimes the other team just comes in here with a little bit more. They looked like they just wanted to win that game. They were really up and they played well. And I mean, they played the game of their life, and we only lost by 3. We made all kinds of mistakes, but it's just the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. That was very, very frustrating all around to basically watch us find every way possible to lose that game and pull it off.
That's true. Notre Dame did everything possible. I mean, a 2-point, botched extra point run back for 2 points. A guy, reaching over the goal line, fumbling, and the most consistent guy on the team fumbling at the end. That was,
all things we've covered. Thank you, sir.
Well, that's all right. You can cover everything. All I know is Ara Parseghian never lost to Northwestern, and he never lost to Notre Dame. He was undefeated in that. But I just want to know, I bet you this coach is one of the few coaches in history to play and win against Notre Dame and to coach and win against Notre Dame.
With the
Both
same
at Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah.
I think that's the first.
That
Both
problem
games
is.
occurred at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
I learn something new every day. I learned I need a lock on my door.
I know. I learned maybe you could pay some rent.
Bye, Dad.
I consider that's my door. I'll see you. Go Irish. We ain't dead yet.
My God.
Oh, my. Oh.
All right, well, I guess I'm looking for a place to live.
Oh, we're having a whole week of this. Is this actually happening? Oh, wow.
It's actually happening.
It's
we were MVPs.
We were thinking about doing MVPs, and I'm like, why are you looking back? Do you just put it? I'm like, oh, it's your dad.
Sorry, he always has to get his 2 cents in.
I can't wait for people that are only listening this via audio, just hearing the third voice come in out of nowhere. That's going to be fantastic.
And like yelling. My goodness. Anyways, MVPs. You go for it. Who would you pick as an MVP? I'm guessing there's not any on defense.
No, I can't on defense. And, I mean, there were some good plays, but it was just the fact that everything went to hell continuously. It's just that, yeah, it's like giving somebody an offensive MVP for making one good play and then coughing up a football. I mean, I just don't see it be able to do that. So this is the first week. I just don't see anybody that stood out. I saw some glimpses of people trying to get it together, but then they fell right back apart after.
I agree. We don't celebrate mediocrity here on HLS TV.
Well,
no MVP for you.
Yeah, but on the offense, I'm going to give one honorable mention to Folston because I thought he had a pretty good game. But Will Fuller, I mean, yeah, he just had another fantastic game. Pull up because he was the leading receiver. So he had 9 receptions for 159 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is just absolutely absurd. I don't care who you're playing. And he didn't make any mistakes that I mean, maybe he whiffed on a block downfield or something like that, but he didn't cough the ball up. He wasn't dropping passes. And, on the overtime where he went diving for when Golson shorted the ball to him, I mean, he came as close as he could to making that play on a bad throw. So I got to give it to Will. He's been probably one of the most consistent offensive players from start to finish, I think, for the Irish this season.
Yeah, and I think that's a good pick. I hadn't even thought of any, but I think if I had to pick someone on offense, you'd have to give it to Will Fuller. There wouldn't be any other choice. He did. He had a great game, and I wish that the whole team had played to his level because that's got to be frustrating having that good of a game and just not everybody else not being on the same page. But
Right, yeah. Like I
what are
said,
you gonna do?
you could give some debate for Folston too. I mean, he had 106 yards on 20 carries with a touchdown. Played great, but that performance by Fuller is just ridiculous, and I definitely got to give
Yeah,
him the nod for that. So now
I'll
we
allow it.
now we move on to Louisville, and
Whew,
I am now more scared about this game than I was before. And,
I was
this will be
gonna say.
interesting because you had good confidence coming into the Arizona State game. I know we were both
Did.
very confident about this. So where are you? Because I consider myself mostly optimistic, and I'm scared to death right now. I think you're a little bit more optimistic than me most of the time. So where are you feeling about the Louisville?
I will say this is my degree of optimism is that, and see, now I feel like I might jinx it, but I wouldn't think that it could get any worse. I'm hoping that we can go up from here. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't know what that means for the game, but I don't know if that means we win, but I just hope that we don't look that discombobulated. That's all I
Well,
want.
now I'm going to say it can't get any worse only because we can't lose to a worse team than we just lost to.
Yeah, exactly.
Things can certainly not get better is the way I term it. I still feel like if we hit bottom, we just hit it because a loss to Louisville isn't great, but it's not nearly as bad as losing to Northwestern. A
Well, and
loss
I would hope that that would be, like you said, a dose of reality, sobering in some sense. I mean, you can't. I would hope that those guys are going to come out against Louisville and just want to be out for blood. I mean, you'd think they'd have to, don't you? I mean, that's like your pride right there. You lost to Northwestern. Come on, guys, get it
especially
together.
the defense. I mean, especially the
Yeah.
defense. The offense can say we made a handful of mistakes and we probably
Right.
scored enough points to win the game. And if we
Mhm.
don't make those mistakes, we certainly score enough points to win the game. But yeah, I mean, the defense in particular. I mean, that's really where most of the concern is going to be. You
Yeah.
figure after some point. I mean, Golson had a better game in terms of turnovers, but I mean, you can't get much worse than what he did against Arizona State.
Yeah.
Saying he only had 2 turnovers isn't that great,
I
but
know it's scary that that's a positive thing, but
yeah,
it's
but
what it is.
yeah, it is what it is. And you would have to figure that Cam's not going to fumble again this season. You wouldn't think Chris is going to make another decision to, you know, be careless with the ball, trying to stick it out there and basically just ask for a fumble, which is what happened
Right.
there. You would think Kyle. I mean, he was the most accurate kicker that I think the NBC telecast said the most accurate kicker in Notre Dame history, and he missed 2. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I have no idea if his leg was hurt. I didn't even mention the punting. I'm glad your dad did because, yeah, he shanked 2, which really, I mean, that mattered. He shanked 2
Yeah.
punts and gave Northwestern good field
Yeah,
position.
field position's huge. Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said,
Especially the way our defense is playing. You can't have them starting from a decent place.
yeah, and right now the defense needs all the help they can get, whether it is Notre Dame bleeding time off the clock, helping them out with long fields, because we're probably going to have to get into more bend, don't break situations, because if we can't get pressure, and Northwestern was supposed to have a terrible offensive line, if we can't get pressure on that line, we have a lot of issues, and I think Van Gorder will get a little gun shy on that. And really, if you think about it, the last drive where Northwestern ended up getting their field goal, Notre Dame for the most part was rushing 3 and mostly playing prevent until they got closer to field goal range. And I really think it was a point to where I honestly think Van Gorder was scared of getting burned on a big play and said, well, let him creep up there, and then I'll try to bring the pressure. If you think about Stanford, though, he brought the house immediately. You know, he's saying, we're going for the kill shot right now. And, I mean, it was a very unlike Van Gorder thing that we've seen all season, but when you're ravished by injuries, your best defensive lineman, Sheldon Day, in my opinion, is our best man on the line. We know Jaron Jones has been battling an injury too, so he didn't have a great game. But, when you can't get that kind of pressure from your line alone, extra blitzers aren't going to help you that much either. So it's scary. I'm terrified of these
I am
next
too.
games.
I don't even want to throw a prediction out there. I just want to not die of alcohol poisoning these next 2 weekends. That's my goal right now.
Yeah, especially for Southern Cal, where the Trojan blood comes back out, because I'm pretty sure drinking Notre Dame Code Red, we're out of Code Red as it is, Mountain Dew Code Red, much less with gin, is probably not the best idea in the world to begin with.
I was going to say, yeah, just the Mountain Dew alone is not a good idea.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully we get it back in the gear. Really, I mean, we just need a bounce back. There needs to be better effort.
Yeah.
And I really want to see somebody, step up.
I agree. I was going to say, if we just see even just some sort of leadership on the defense or some spark, like some glimmer of communication, I'll be happy with that, because they were just all over the place.
Yeah, and I know it's cliche, but I mean, I do think it makes a difference when you have somebody leading the charge. If you have Manti Te'o screaming up and down the sidelines to get his players pumped up, I mean, maybe the cameras just aren't showing it. That's very much a possibility with the way NBC does things, because Te'o was Heisman contender at the time, so you're going to have a camera on him. But I just don't see anybody really,
I don't see it either.
We need that spark, continuous spark, and I feel like we have a bunch of silent leaders right now, and that can work, because you can very well lead by example, and you don't have to be the guy that's jumping up and down, getting emotional. But really, this team needs that, because it can deliver a kick in the butt right now.
Yeah, I do think they need someone kind of up in everyone's faces saying, look, we got to pull it together and we got to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's Everett doing that. I mean,
yeah.
if Everett would do that, just kind of, I almost wonder if he feels like he's hurting the team more, so he kind of shells up a bit more. I mean, I don't even know, even when Cam is out there, I mean, he's definitely a leader of the team, but
right.
He doesn't have those huge fired up moments, and it just feels lacking. I mean, like I said, it's probably cliche. It's probably not that big of an effect, but holy crap, would I feel better if I saw it on the field?
I was going to say, at least I would feel like someone was trying to pull them together, because I don't know.
Yeah, but I will say this, Matthias Farley, even though he didn't have a very good game, there was one point, and I think it was Drew Tranquil that blew coverage, because Farley was settled into his zone, nowhere close to a receiver, and then he came back to try to get him, and he turned around and just, was pointing and yelling and got emotional. Tranquil, I'm like, where's that been?
Yeah.
And there were even some people, I think, poor Tranquil, he had a bad game, but when he grabbed the blocked field goal that he never should have touched, you could see people turning around like, no, what are you doing? Don't do that. So, but hopefully that leadership will pick up. I hate saying that, because I hate being all cliche, but at this point we're really grasping at straws, because we just got.
I was gonna say, at this point, a cliche, I'll run with it. I don't care.
We need anything and everything at this point, to say the least.
Yeah, I just want to make it out alive these next 2 games. I don't even know how to feel about them, but like you said, it can't get any worse, just because it's not Northwestern that we would lose to if we did. So I'll cling to that.
Right. I don't know if that's. I'm not going to cling to it, because, like I said, it doesn't make it any better. But yeah,
I know it doesn't.
Like I said, it speaks volumes to the fact that you won't even want to give a vote of confidence or anything. I think that says enough as it is.
Well, I'm not usually superstitious, but now I'm like, I feel like some sort of jinx, so I just don't want to say anything.
Well, like I said, you can blame me. I think we already established that. It's my fault right now. We're 0-2.
Okay, that's good. Then I think we're going to win next week. And if we don't, I'll blame you.
I'll take the ball.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we need to put this one in the books. What do you think?
I think we do too. I'm like, 2 of these in a row, not fun. We want to come back and be giddy next week.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be giddy about beating Louisville.
If we won, I wouldn't care what we won by. I'd be giddy.
I don't know if I'd be giddy. I'd probably be relieved. That's probably where I'd be.
That's true.
All right, well, on that note, go Irish. Please, God, beat the Cardinals.
Please. Sounds good.